All right, so welcome to the On Purpose podcast, where we're here to live a life of purpose, to be flourished and fulfilled in all areas of our life. This is episode number 7, and I know, and I
Started
wanted
already.
to, I wanted to deep dive into how to begin architecting our lives and aligning it to fit our purpose. You brought this up last week, and
Mm.
I was brought with a lot of insights with this, just with the awareness of how it's already playing out in my life. And the biggest thing was about remembering, like, jumping up and being so inspired when I wake up in the morning, like, I can't wait to get up out of bed. And so I've been practicing this all week. And that is my prayer for everyone, is to get a sense of life that whatever that we're doing, it makes us want to jump out of bed in the morning, just ready to just like have our day be so fulfilled. And so, how did you begin architecting your life and aligning it to fit your purpose?
Awesome. Let me just be with the question for a moment. So, the beginning of my life, child, adolescent, teenager, young adult, um, I was about to say I really had no idea what I wanted. I do remember wanting to be a musician. I played drums. I played drums professionally for a long time, and what I wound up doing wasn't what my childhood dream was. I dreamed of being a rock star,
Oh,
long
you had
flowing
this. You had the
hair.
same one. I had the same one too.
Oh, really? Yeah. I imagined myself behind super drum kits and long, flowy hair and fans and lights and women jumping up and down and screaming my name and the whole thing. And it didn't quite turn out that way. Spoiler alert. Well, I'm sorry, I'm just having fun.
Don't beat your own drum
Having
over
fun,
there.
having a little fun, but making fun of myself. Anyway, so beyond that, however, and I'll address that too, also, but beyond that, however, I really didn't know of anything that I wanted to do or be or anything, like I was never sure how I was going to survive. The world looked really difficult and really scary. And my upbringing was, I would say, highly dysfunctional. I was going to say, fairly dysfunctional, being casual about it. I would, if I was being straight about it, I would say my upbringing was pretty highly dysfunctional. And in one of the ways it was dysfunctional is we were like really broke and poor, and there was no honor or anything around integrity or pulling one's own weight. Like that wasn't part of the culture, right, that I grew
Yeah.
up in. And so the world just looked really scary and kind of impossible. And the message I got from my mother always is that she was, outgunned, outnumbered, doing her best, trying to survive. And one thing about surviving is people will do anything to survive, right? So one of the things I say a lot is there's nothing more dangerous than a righteous victim. There's nothing more dangerous than being around somebody who's absolutely certain they're a victim of the world and they now need to do anything to kind of make up for it. And there you are. Do the math really quick and then start with it.
That's so
So
me. So me.
yes. Oh shit, they're looking at me. Oh my god. They got nothing left and they're looking at me. Oh my god, this is my crazy.
So true. I'm
Anyway, yeah.
gonna grab my notebook. 1 second.
All right, cool. And I'm kind of meandering through your question here a little bit.
Okay.
So I'm using myself as an example for this. It's the story isn't really about me, but in hopes that people find, glimpses of their own past in my story. And again, very apprehensive about the future, very scared, no good counsel coming my way. My My mother was very was not successful either in career, money, family, like really anything. But she was constantly telling me how the world works, right? You know,
Yeah.
my various stepfathers, none of whom were successful, but always had plenty to say about how the world, how to make, how to do a career, and how to do everything that they were currently failing at. Right? And so, was not getting good counsel. Clearly, everyone in my world was not making it. I
Mhm.
was present to that we were on the lower end of the world, at least in the world that I could observe. If you're an American citizen, even if at the lower end of that, you're still not at the lower end of the world. But anyway, I was at the lower end of my perceived. I could tell my family was at the lower end of what I could perceive. We were poor and you know lacked freedom. Hey, can we go do this? Like, no, can't afford it. Kind of thing. Hey, can I have this? No, can it's kind of like that sort of thing.
Mm.
And so, and then there was violence. I grew up in New Orleans, and public schooling in New Orleans, and where I was often very much the minority. So there's lots of racial tension in the reverse of the way people usually think about it. And so there's just like a lot going on. Getting lunch money stolen. Bullies in school, out of school, walking back and forth from home, and getting mugged. You just all kind of shit going on all the time, right? So my mother having fights with her men, stepfathers, or live-ins, whatever the case was, right? So there's all this stuff going on. The point of this is chaotic, dysfunctional, and no good information coming my way. Like I was alone, as far as I could tell, definitely in my experience. And just craziness around me, right? So the point of all this is directionless, rudderless, guideless, um, plenty of suggestions and recommendation, but none coming from anybody who actually knew anything about what they were talking about. The unsuccessful married person telling you how to be married, the broke person telling you how to get rich, the unhappy person telling you how to, like that. Like so.
Yeah, the judgmental person trying to tell you how to forgive.
Yes, exactly. Yes, that's good. I don't think I've ever used that. I'm still, I like that one. Yes, I'm taking some of that. I was like, what, what? And at that point, it's so far gone, you can't even like. You realize you're like that doesn't, no. So anyway, yes. All right. Anyway, so um, so then as I'm growing up, I understand that I have to figure out this life thing, how to be an adult, how to take care of myself. And I've never really seen an example of it yet as a teenager. And I'm clear my number's coming. I'm clear soon I'm going to be out of the house and there's not going to be a refrigerator with food in it, so I just go and help myself too. And this is, I'm anxious and I don't have an answer and I'm not confident and I'm, scared and all the stuff. And then I start making decisions out of desperation and fear. I decided to go into construction because they would have me and my body was strong and I was willing to learn and apply myself. And I was willing to work hard. That was no problem for me. I was willing to apply myself. And when I was young, I was very strong. And um, um, I liked it, except that it was all desperation and there's really no future. My perception was there's really no future in it. I came to that conclusion because within just 2 or 3 years, I was making almost as much as the guy who was making the most on the crew, who definitely outskilled me in many categories. So I knew I was not going to be able to overtake him scale wise. And yet he was like 40 years older than me. So I did a quick calculation and I realized at the age of young 20s, I was at kind of the top of this career already. And so I didn't like, and I wasn't, I didn't have money to burn or anything. So I was just kind of barely making it. So so I rejected that and I got into business to business sales. which was incredibly difficult. I chose the copier business because, of course, that's one of the most difficult things you could choose. And I have a history of making those choices. Excuse me, sir. Could you share with me?
Anyone
Yes.
else raise their hand?
Yeah, yeah. Sorry, could you share with the menu? Yes, sir. Here's the menu. Great. And can you tell me the most difficult item? Okay, good. I'll have three of those. Thank you. So, so I chose copier sales because obviously. Uh, so I guess what I'm piecing together is the story of having no grand plan other than survival, having no grand vision. I mean, it's not true that I didn't have, like, when I was in copier sales, I had visions of being a copier dealer owner, which I did actually accomplish. And it just about killed me. The amount of work it takes when you don't know what you're doing is really rather extraordinary. And, I basically worked myself to a medical issue, in my young 20s. And, uh, so it was just like this series of big, bold moves, lacking any vision or plan or, grand sort of direction. So no particular direction other than survival, no plan, and no guidance. Lots of enthusiasm, lots of energy, lots of smarts, lots of courage. Yeah, fuck it, I'll go do it. But not no real skill.
Yeah,
So, uh, I guess as I'm thinking about it, I guess that's why I've really pendulated to being someone who, uh, like, I live in the world of skill and expertise. Like, I train people in skillful things, and I covet skills that I have, and I think it might be from this experience right now that I'm kind of relaying it, because I knew I had potential, I knew I had energy, I knew I had a lot of stuff a lot of people didn't have. Like, I would outwork pretty much everybody every day, like, without really breaking a sweat. Like, I knew I had something, but I just didn't know what the f I was doing, and it kept crushing my results, at least, and making me feel terrible. So anyway,
yeah,
I'm just now seeing why I love skill and skill level and expertise so much. But
mhm,
anyway, my experience over decades was just kind of going around in a circle and never really accomplishing things. I mean, I accomplished stuff, and then it would, unwind, and I'd accomplish something really amazing, then it, like that, and just had the experience of, like, traveling this very big circle in my life of creation and destruction, and then building and falling apart and building like that. And then at, 50 years old or so, I'm like, um, well, in 2016, how old was I then? I was in my 50s. I'm 61 now. So 2000, it's 2024. So, somewhere in there, like, in 2016, I had this big crash, coming out of a relationship and career, relationship, home, city, my whole social, like everything, like, all at the same time.
yeah,
Um, and it was dark. And so at that moment, at that point in my life, I'm like, wow, I've done many things that many people have not done. I failed at many things. I've accomplished many things. But here I am at zero again, below zero in this case, but, for the purpose of the story, here I am at the beginning again. And, that got my attention. There was lots of shame and embarrassment and that sort of thing, but it also got my attention in another way. Like, there's something that I'm missing here. Something is missing here,
yeah,
because I've extended a lot of horsepower and a lot of energy and a lot of talent and a lot of time in all these different directions that I have little to show for it. So I got interested in this idea of, what am I actually committed to? What's actually important to me? And what I chose was being a contribution. It's important to me to develop myself as someone who can be the answer, as someone who can be a contribution to the world, somebody who can make a positive impact on the world. I have spent most of my life around people who are not making a positive impact, who are actually being detrimental to themselves and their family, just by, being asleep or being packed and stacked with pain, childhood trauma, hurt people, most people are hurt, so most people are hurting people, you know.
Yeah.
It's not a big judgment or a big stretch, I just noticed most people go around hurting people mostly. You know? And as I was really looking at what's important to me, and my attention was really focused because I was in the middle of one of the most difficult circumstances that I can remember, and I was scared to death. So my attention had like laser focus, you know. So these questions were not casual. I wasn't just, you know, like thumbing through some interesting questions. I was like really wanting to know like what is important to me and what am I here for. And so I landed on contribution, and I did shows and created and decided and crafted a covenant and everything I could imagine who I am now is contribution. I'm going to be the biggest contribution I can imagine. And as I'm heading into these dark times and I'm scared to die, I am literally scared to death. And it takes a lot to scare me. I've been through a lot of shit. So if I'm scared, I'm in something that is unknown to me and that's not that common anymore. So I was scared. So my attention was laser focused. And what I chose to birth out of that was who I am as contribution. And this will be the source of my ultimate victory. This will be the source of my salvation. And so, you know, from there, a few years after that, a couple years after that or something, you know, here I am at Earthquake University, and I'm putting together this leadership program called the Visionary Program. And one of the conversations in this leadership program is alignment architecture. And alignment architecture is we really stop and take stock of what is our life occupied with. Because my life, until some years ago, was occupied 100%, maybe 95% with stuff that wasn't for me, wasn't created for me, and I didn't want or like. I hated most of my careers, even though I put on a good show and I succeeded in most of them, and some of them I exceeded extraordinarily, and they were difficult and all the stuff. But I didn't. It wasn't like a self. It wasn't an expression of freedom or sovereignty or my soul's purpose. It was nothing like that. It was
And it
also
came at a great expense. You know, you
yes,
said physically it brought ailments and your health was
yeah,
actually hindered
yeah.
because of it. So,
And then the majority of your life is spent in your career. For most people, the majority of life is spent in your career, and most people are up to something that's not for them. It's not good for them. It's not, it's not what they're here for. So I started getting really interested in this idea of really looking at one's life and distinguishing, noticing, discerning, pointing out all the things that you don't want there. Crazy job, dysfunctional relationships, this thing that your neighbor keeps trying to get you to do that you don't want to do. This relationship you have where you're someone's bitch all the time, you know, and you're not quite sure how it got to be that way, but you don't fucking like it. Just whatever, you know, eating junk food all the time and just watching your body fall apart over the years and just wondering, you know, when it's all going to come to an end or just whatever, you know. So what one could find really important could be in the world of health, could be in the world of abundance, could be in the world of happiness, could be in the world of relationships, could be in the world of connection with God, it could be in the world of living a life on purpose, could be in the world of developing oneself a leader or anything else, you know. So so I started really looking at my life and deciding what's actually important to me. And actually it's a short list when I take out all the shit I'm supposed to be doing and stuff I'm doing because of what they would think. By the way, I've never met they, and I'm pretty sure if I met they, I probably wouldn't like them. The odds are my
they
favorite.
wouldn't like you either.
But you know, the odds are my favorite both accounts. I think I don't like most people that I meet. I'm pretty sure most people don't like me. So so I've never met they, and I don't, and I'm kind of reluctant or judgy about myself of why I've been shapeshifting and contorting my whole life for what they think, and I don't even know who they are. And so I
Yeah.
really got presence at like, wow, I've been contorting myself for I don't even know, like I literally don't know what I've been contorting myself for. It's just the domestication. We talked about that, but anyway, that's
Yeah.
another
It's
conversation.
also it's what I'm hearing you distinguish is the blueprint, and it's somebody else's blueprint
Hmm.
that was
Exactly.
for us. So I wanted
Yeah.
to bring that distinction in as well. As
That's
you already
beautiful.
Yeah, you already were describing it, but yeah, it's living out someone else's blueprint that you already have for your life.
Yeah, yeah, and that's a conversation Mel brought to the to our community, and yeah, like everybody's got a blueprint for how life is supposed to be. The problem is you didn't create the blueprint, and it wasn't created for you. It wasn't created for you or by you. In fact, it was created to control you. And if you start looking at life, if you start looking at society through the lens of, well, how would I want to organize things if I was trying to control everything and everybody, and start looking at how society is laid up through that lens, then I think you'll find it very illuminating.
Mhm.
But anyway, that's a whole other chapter probably. But anyway, so as you start looking at life through the lens of, well, what's actually important to me, like at the highest level, if I'm a spiritual being having a physical experience, if I am here to bring heaven on earth, if I'm here to follow God's will, if I'm here to create opportunities for people to set themselves free, if I'm here to model what it is to live in the new earth, if I'm here to model what it is to live a life from love, honoring word, being whole and complete, and actually just being responsible for doing what works, then that's going to, if that's what's important to me, which it is, and if I put that at the top of a hierarchy, like literally, this is what I'm here for, and everything is secondary to that. And by secondary to that, now that this is what my life is for, not only is everything secondary to that, but everything needs to actually support that. So if my, to just for the convenience of the conversation, if my purpose, if what I'm here for, if my ultimate alignment is to bring heaven on earth, then I would look at everything in my life and ask myself a simple question. Does this bring me closer to bringing heaven on earth, or does it take me away from? And
Mhm.
usually the answer to that question is very simple and obvious, usually. And then with
Yeah.
the answer to that question, then it's very easy to choose, shall I continue to have this in my life or not? So just to give a ridiculous example, if I was here, if I decided that how to fulfill my life's purpose was to really distinguish what it is to be healthy and fit and really love and enjoy the vehicle that you're living inside of, and I'm having all these beautiful experiences, spiritual, emotional, physical, psychological, all these wonderful benefits of having a fit, awesome, incredible body, and I have like access to assisting people with having the same kind of experience. If that were my thing, then probably eating a bag of Cheetos every day would be something I would take, out of my inquiring. Does that bring me closer to or further away from my mission? I'd probably go, you know what, Cheetos every day, probably let's just try to take this out for a week or two and
I want
let's
to
let's,
bring a
let's give that a
distinction in
try.
with this with what you're saying because
Right.
this is huge because it's like you're going to the gym, you're working out and you want to justify why you
Yeah.
can do something
Yeah.
versus like, oh well, I'm going to the gym, see I can do this. And it's like,
Yeah.
no, 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 no. I go to the gym, that's why I can't do that.
Right.
It's like I
Right.
read the Bible, so I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm not going
That's right.
so there's a huge distinction in this space. It's not to justify
That's
your
beautiful.
actions and what to do. It is to bring you closer to the nature of grace in your life, to rid
Beautiful.
yourself of the shame. So I just
Yeah.
wanted to
Yeah. I love that.
bring that in with that.
So with that, we're kind of nestling up to now, um, what are you going to use it for?
Yeah.
Right. So a temptation comes in. Somebody, back to my little analogy, someone that hasn't seen you in a few days or a week, and they show up at your doorstep, and obviously they have a bag of Cheetos because they know how much you love Cheetos. And then there's the test, there's the temptation. And then
Oh,
what are you going to use that for? Like there it is right there. Boom. Now you get to see where you're at. You eat the Cheetos. That's a
I
step
really
back.
want
Ah,
those Cheetos.
yes, right. Right. So anyway, so some people will, actually, I'll just leave that there. Right. So,
Yeah, it's what are you going to use it for? Some people use it to tear down their thing and say self-sabotage and like, "Oh, well fuck that guy. He knew that I was doing this," and take it out on your friend for bringing the Cheetos. You should have known I've been doing this. And so
Hmm. Hmm.
um just ways to look at that and to design our life um with one that builds, not just builds for ourselves, but builds up our community. It brings lift, it brings inspiration, and it it supports the mission. So it's things that are directed inside of that area. And so I wanted to bring the awareness that you brought up last night during the visionary program about drifting,
Hmm.
because I thought this was really beautiful because you're aligning your life, and sometimes this drift comes in a little bit. So bringing the awareness of what is drift, and
Perfect.
um, how can we use that with alignment to get back
Awesome.
in alignment.
Awesome. Um, Drift is the natural tendency for things to drift out of to things to well, let me not use the word in the definition. Drift is a natural tendency for structures to evolve. It shows up. So last night it showed up and I was training someone on something. I said, repeat after me, blah, 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 blah. And they repeated it perfectly, except they changed one word. And while the changing of the one word didn't destroy the thing, it definitely diminished it. It was definitely now moving in a different direction. So there was a drift. And that drift happened in like a second or two. I said a thing, they repeated it. And the time it took them to hear the thing and then repeat it, it drifted a little bit. It
Yeah,
shifted a little bit to the structure devolved into their current reality. So had I been talking to someone else, it might have drifted in a different direction, and they might have changed a different word or drifted in a different way, changed the sentence around or something based on their how the world looks to them. So everybody's got their own sort of unique drift, but the overall flavor of it is the uh, the dis the dis I'm trying to think of the right word, the dis
disassociation.
disconstruction, the sort of the melting down of structure, the
Okay.
falling, just sort of the organic, like, if you have if this casita that I'm living in was left alone for 1,000 years, it would drift into a pile of dirt over time. Eventually, it would be overcome by the jungle, like the drift of the jungle would come back. So integrity is a structure to um, contain something and protect it from the drift. So the whole point of a channel is to have a process that is replicatable. So the visionary program is a channel as a process. Week one, week two, week three, assignments, Tuesday nights, blah 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 blah, blah. And it's replicatable. We do it week after week after week, and we're not figuring out how to do it every week. That ship has sailed. Now we're just simply operating inside the channel. And the reason we have a channel is if we didn't have the channel, the drift would come. We one week we'd have it on Tuesday night, next week we'd have it on Wednesday night, next week it would be 3 hours, 2 hours, and we'd have this structure, and then that structure, and we have this great idea, and that's all beautiful for certain things, but it's not the way this thing is. Right? So that
Yeah.
might be perfect for something, but that's not how this thing is. So another way to look at drift is look at the phenomena of um, getting in your car in the morning and driving to work, getting to work, and then not remembering the journey.
Mm.
You ever had that happen? Like you arrive at your destination, you're like, I don't fucking remember doing this
How
thing.
how did I get? Yeah, how did I get
Yeah.
here?
Yeah. So yeah, you weren't there. It was all automatic. And that's also an example of the drift. The drift puts life on automatic because that's more efficient. The brain is the highest user of calories in the body. It's the most expensive organ in the body. And so the reason people don't like to think because it's hard work. The reason people don't like to hard work is because it expends calories. The reason people don't want to expend calories is because our whole hundreds of thousands of years of evolution has been a race, a race against calories versus expenditure of calories, expensive calories versus income of calories. So the exact reason we're designed exactly the way we're designed, and we're the shape and the size and all the things, and male and female working together, the reason that all life is structured the way it is so that that particular organism can win the race of calories,
Mm.
right? And so if you want to know why people don't think, it's because if you don't need to think, then your brain naturally doesn't want to do that. Your brain wants to be as efficient as possible at all times. So if it can slot in a tape instead of having you go in there live and do the thing, it will definitely do that. So if your brain can get you home without you being involved and you expending any calories and getting you there, it would prefer that because it's more efficient. It's the way it's designed to be as efficient as possible with energy expenditure. So um, um, the drift is this always constant, slight. It's very slight, but it's always a constant pressure in the direction of no structure, in the direction of chaos, in the direction of no lines, no stopping points, no speed bumps. Just it's not a strong force, but it's strong by its endurance, and it's like always there. So if every day you move a little millimeter, in a year you moved a lot. So it's powerful in that sense. It's also powerful in the way that this is actually not true, but they say if you put frogs in boiling water and turn it up real slow, they'll just die in there. That's actually not true. They'll pop out when it gets hot, I read. But anyway, it's a great analogy. You turn the water up a little bit, they get warm, and they just fall asleep and they die in the water. Same way, that's the way the drift works. It's so subtle, people don't notice it. But
So if drift is the engine, what is the fuel that is making the machine go?
um, drift is actually, I would say, the opposite, the absence of an engine.
Okay.
So an engine is going to take me from here to there, and a channel is going to provide the pathway, and the drift is everything that isn't that. It's like before there's a road and before there's a vehicle and before there's a destination, there's just so before I
Okay.
live a life of purpose, I'm watching Netflix and drinking wine and eating pizza all day.
Okay, so then okay, so what I'm getting at is like the fuel for it would be like what's motivating it to do that would be one's own agenda.
Purpose.
Yeah.
On the high side, purpose. On the low side, survival. So I lived a life of, so here we're now the On Purpose podcast, right? We're perfect. So the first half of my life was 100% survival.
Yeah.
Not 100% survival, but 100% egoic, either survival or comfort and success. Wherever I happen to, as high on that scale as I could ever possibly be. That's where I was. But basically, it was somewhere between survival and I'm going to get mine. Right, that was my whole
Yeah,
life.
yeah, yeah.
And then one day I discovered purpose. And it's like never. Holy smokes! Are you kidding me? And so once my fuel was survival and personal gain, and then in a miraculous weekend experience. I don't know if I was living on purpose specifically after that weekend, but after that weekend, there was no going back. I was definitely on that trajectory.
Mhm.
And that was the landmark forum in 1997 in Houston.
Wow.
Yeah. And so,
Yeah.
yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, you're good. Keep going.
And so, and so that's where I got introduced to the idea of drift, because drift is that always, if there's no structure in place, you're going to just move towards comfort and survival. If there's no structure in place, you're going to move towards doing things the way you've always done them.
Yeah.
If
And
there's no
fear,
structure,
and fear comforts your
yes,
dysfunction.
yes,
And so your comfort is your cage. And
yes,
I just wanted to bring that insight
yeah,
here. I was hearing that loudly. So
yeah. So typically, a drift will keep moving you towards that sort of numbing discomfort, comfort, whatever that is for you.
yeah.
You know, Cheetos. You know,
Yeah. And you brought this up because we're coaches and we're leading and we're doing these things, and how to recognize and how to interrupt the
yeah,
pattern when it
yes,
comes. You said that there's three different ways that people can do this, and it was with their speaking,
mhm,
their listening, and
mhm.
in their being. And
Yeah,
can you distinguish that just a little bit?
yeah. So I'm listening. So as a coach or leader, I'm listening for the drift in what they're hearing. So there's this. So even when you're listening to me right now, right?
Yeah.
There's your life experience, your history, your commitments, your preferences, your biases, your dysfunction, your just like all the stuff in there. And it's a lens that everything I say has to get through.
Yeah.
And if you're really present and conscious, that's very easy for me to do because you're opening up your lens to receive. If you're not awake or very conscious or aware of this phenomena, you could easily, people often miss the most simple, obvious things that are said to them. You notice that, like you say to someone, 1 + 1 = 2, and either argue or don't understand or didn't hear it or whatever. Now, like literally one sentence that makes perfect sense. There's nothing to miss here. There's nothing to be confused about. It was said at a good volume. There was eye contact. There was no stuttering. There was no accent. It was like completely just easily receivable. Except it's not easily receivable because people have this thick lens of that everything they hear has to pierce through, right? So that lens, we call that survival listening, and it's like that way of listening, like, is this going to hurt me? Is this going to help me? Have I heard this? Have I not heard this? Do I like this or not like this? Is this dangerous? Is this good? Is this good for me? Is this good use of my time? Can I do anything with this? Blah, 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 blah. Meanwhile, you're missing everything that's being said.
Mhm.
So that's survival listening, right? So most people are doing that all the time. So if anybody's listening, that sounds cute. Rewind this and listen one more time. So
It's
because
you.
you just missed it, you were just doing it, right? You were just like, oh, I really like this, and you actually missed that I was talking about you. So boom, there you go. You're welcome. No, no charge. Look forward to seeing you next. All right. Um, uh, So if I'm interested in making a difference with someone, if I'm interested in having an impact, having my time and energy and words have an impact, then I'm interested in what I'm saying is being received the way that I intended to be received.
Mhm.
And that was
Because
the example last night. I
that is
Good.
because that is bringing someone to the reality of the direction and the purpose that you have.
Yes. Yeah. Which may or may not be reality, but it is what I just said, and it is what you just asked for, right? So
Yeah,
we're
yeah,
gonna
yeah.
we're gonna call this reality for now, since you're asking me for it, I'm giving it to you. So let us get this transferred, and then we'll sort out whether or not it's of interest to you and you want to take it on or leave it or set it down or startify it or whatever you want, whatever you want to do.
All the ways that we
Whatever your choices.
humans do things.
Yes, all the wonderful things that people do. And so and that happened last night. I said a phrase, hey, say this, and she said it, except she changed one word. I was like, no, that's not what I said. This is what I said. Try this one, right? And
Yeah.
then you brought that up. We had a whole conversation about the drift, which was really great for the classroom. So it's great to have that. So that's in speaking. Um, in being, right? I could be communicating with someone, and I'm saying the most beautiful thing. Hey, I understand you had this concern. I was thinking about we could do this for you, we could do that for you, we could suppose do this way and that way. And by the way, you don't have to choose, you don't have to say yes right now, take all the time you want, blah, 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 and you're getting upset. Like something is not being received. My words are being heard, perhaps, but my intention is in no way, shape, or form being received because my intention is all fucking love and contribution and space and generosity. Yet someone is literally about to take a swing at me, right? So there's something that there's some I'm saying one, and the only thing I know for sure is that right about here, that one gets changed into something else. I'm not sure what it is, but whatever it is pissing this person off.
Yeah, I'm not triggered. I'm offended in
Yeah,
love.
yeah. So that's the being, right? I can sense the being is altering in a direction that is not correlated to what the words that come out of my mouth, nor the intention that's coming from my heart.
Yeah.
You know,
How
so
would one, this brings in another question just right now with this is, how would one be able to begin to have the awareness to receive in the moment? Like curiosity or an
well,
openness? Like what
yeah,
would be,
people are unskilled at learning. So what I mean by that, in our school system, we've been taught to learn answers and shut up. We've been taught not to question the answers. We've been taught if we come up with an answer that's better than the correct answer to shut up. We've been taught that if we've heard a different perspective to keep it to yourself. We've been taught that if this is obviously incorrect and everybody in the room knows it, what there is to do is shut up and pretend, right? And so if you've grown up in that environment and you don't know that you've grown up in that environment, you know what I mean? Like it's a fish can't see the water because there's never not been water. So it's just like that,
yeah,
right? I grew up in an environment where stealing, cheating, and lying was all there was. I didn't know it as stealing, cheating, and lying. I knew it as just
living.
hanging. Yeah, whatever. Yeah. It wasn't until later when I got introduced to integrity and character in the same transformational weekend, by the way. I was like, oh, oh, I didn't know. And I made an alteration. I chose to be a man of character once I saw character as a possibility.
Hmm. Oh,
So,
that's great. Even with this being thing, I want to bring in that distinction is um, something about what was it that John says about forget about your reputation and
yeah,
focus on
you have many reputations, but only one character.
yeah, 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 yeah. So I just wanted to
Work
bring
on
that
your
distinction.
character.
Yeah, work on your character. Let that be a part of your purpose.
Yes, yes, yes.
Invest here first, like you were speaking about this in the beginning, Kirk, about the thing that gave you the first direction was contribution, that you decided you made this choice and you cut off from
Yeah,
all other options to start becoming this. And that's an investment. That's first like hey, I want to make this life
yeah,
useful. So you're praying for yourself. You're praying over yourself to give yourself life, to come from alive from the inside out so you can bring this
yeah,
and then give it to other people. So
yeah, yeah.
I heard that in your share, and I wanted to bring that distinction with the being part of this, of the
Yeah, I love
drift.
that. I'm reminded of a historical thing. It might be just a story, but Abraham Lincoln or George Washington or who's the guy with the kite and Benjamin Franklin. One of them said something like, if I had 12 hours to cut down a tree, I would take 11 hours sharpening the axe and 1 hour to cut down the tree. So somebody like that said that. And that's what that was, because that was a moment of duress. And I, instead of choosing an immediate solution, like let me go get drunk or let me, whatever, I chose a long-term difficult solution. I sat down and got out the sharpening stone. Everybody's looking at me like, "What are you doing?" I'm sharpening my axe. There's a battle
Well,
going on. I know.
yeah,
No, no, that's why I'm making it so sharp.
yeah.
Ah. So anyway, we're listening and being and acting, right? And if I'm trying to assist somebody and they start acting all, if their actions are inconsistent with what's being said, there's some filter in the way, and that filter is the drift, right? There's some lens through which they're hearing me, seeing me, feeling me, that is distorting my intention and then creating a different effect than what I was going for.
Hmm.
So that's how I can see that there's a drift.
Yeah.
Like if I shine a flashlight in the darkness and all of a sudden something gets in the way of the light, I know that there's something in the, I know that there's a barrier. So it's the same way. If my intentions keep getting distorted, I know that there's something in the way.
Amazing. And also with alignment architecture, it is about taking full responsibility for one's own life. And so noticing those barriers and having the awareness like there's no shortcuts in this work. And you're going to end up just drifting off into the oh someday or this something or this somewhere, and it's going to float around and you're going to think you're just going to grab it someday. That's not how it works. It works when you wake up and you make it work. And
Mm.
it got to face the reality of how things are actually making you feel and what actions you're taking, and get to those barriers. If anything is stepping in the way of your freedom, wouldn't you want access to getting that thing out of the way? Like, yeah, come on, get this thing out, get this out of me, whatever it is. So I just wanted to bring that in because that's what we do here, and taking full responsibility for who and what we are. And you spoke this last night that the that integrity is the absence of drift.
Mm.
And so um, is there anything that you'd like to share on integrity with regards to that just the space, with integrity being the absence of drift?
Well, I want to double down on your pointing towards responsibility. Um,
Yeah,
Being responsible for what is and is not in your life is a rare thing for people. Usually people relate to their life as well, just kind of shoulder shrug. Well, that's just how life is. Or sort of a aggressive assertion that, oh no, I like my life just fine.
do you?
Yes. So um, uh, those are evasions of responsibility, right? If there's something in my life that I don't like and I just pretend like it's not there, I'm avoiding being responsible. And if there's something in my life that I don't like and it's not good for me, but I pretend like I do, I'm avoiding being responsible, right? So I think that's really, I think I'm glad you brought that in. It's really the linchpin, that's really like the thing. And it's really the thing for all of this. Living a life as a consumer, which is pretty much where we all start. That's definitely where I started, where I was just literally either trying to survive or get mine, is another way of not being responsible. Well, not being responsible for what? Well, I say that we're spiritual beings having a physical experience and we're literally capable of anything. And the only obstacle in our way is our perception. I say
Yeah,
that we are our own biggest resource and we're our own biggest obstacle. We're our own biggest resource because we're literally children of God and anything is possible. We're our own biggest obstacle because we keep getting our own way with our perspectives and our smallness and our fear and our prejudices and and so this idea of being responsible, responding ably, choosing because the opposite, the alternative to being responsible is being a victim. Either everything in your life belongs to you and you're addressing it as like an adult, as a child of God, as a fully capable being. Life can be difficult, life can be painful, but who you are in the face of life is actually up to you.
Yeah.
And so to respond ably to life is to choose who you're going to be in relationship to your life. Are you going to be a whiny, snivelly, complaining, blaming child about anything and everything that you don't like? Or are you going to be the answer? Are you going to be the solution? Are you going to be the adult in the room? Are you going to be the one who stands for what's possible? Now, most people don't make that second choice. Most people don't make that first choice either consciously. They just grow up into that choice like I did and either refuse to see that there's another way or just never get introduced to it. But this idea of being responsible, this idea of waking up, like waking up to your divinity, waking up to anything's possible, waking up to you are the captain of your ship, whether you choose to exercise your ability to turn the wheel or not is not the issue. The issue is your hands are on the wheel, and whatever happens with your hands on the wheel. And
Yeah.
so that can be that's difficult to onboard for people who are used to relating to themselves as smaller than life. And it's also difficult to onboard for people who are used to being the savior in life, saving people, right? Both parties are interested in this sort of the world's bigger than people. They're getting something out of it. The victims are getting a free ride, and the heroes are getting nobility and reputation and recognition, right? So everybody's winning, except nobody's like actually awake driving their own ship,
Yeah.
being the captain of their ship. And every now and then someone wakes up and says, no, I choose to head towards love. I choose to be the captain of my ship. I choose that everything in my life belongs to me. I choose to be a contribution. I choose to live a life on purpose. I choose to be the answer. I choose to be the solution, whatever it is your choices are. And then that's actually an adult, distinguished by adults have the capacity to take care of others, while children need to be taken care of. So everybody of any age who's constantly whining and complaining and blaming and needing other people to change themselves so that they can feel okay, those are all children. I don't care if they're 50 or 5, they're all children. People who are responsible for themselves and manage their own emotions and manage their own thoughts and are the captain of their ship and choose to be the answer and the solution and move towards the truth rather than being right. Those people are adults, whether they're 5-year-olds or 50. It makes no difference in this particular conversation. So this idea of being responsible in my book is the keys to freedom. Being responsible for that, am a child of God, being responsible for that I can accomplish anything if I have the proper perspective and the proper guidance and an open heart and open mind. And I don't have to take from others. I don't have to hurt others. I don't need other people to change and contort themselves for me. And then from there, I would say all things are possible, which is kind of the foundation of our work here. So,
Yeah. Yeah, I heard in that is that it's the only thing that defines our journey is not how other people treat us, but it's how we respond in the moments like that. Because
yeah,
when people's souls are crying right now, and that's their spirit telling you, especially when they're complaining, they're blaming, they're passive aggressive, their victim comes out, whatever it may be. That is their soul saying, I'm very overwhelmed by my journey right now, and I don't know how to get through this. And they've met you now, and this could be your possibility if you choose to so do that with your life. But it's all in how you are responding to that, that you get to be the light that shines on this person to say, no more. That shit stops with me. Like today, I'm going to be the answer to that. I'm going to be the
Yeah.
prayer that's set
Yeah.
that free. That's a
Yeah.
way different way of living and a way different of and expressing life, that gives more life, because that's what really impacts people is love. So I just wanted to really shout that one out from the rooftops too. And also the codependency of the mind, how people think that they're so concerned about how other people think of them, but it's not really about how other people think of them. It's about how you think that the other person is thinking of you, and you needing someone else to think a certain way for you to be okay. That is a codependency in relation to this topic as well. Um, so I want to release you of that mind swirl. You're responsible for how you think about yourself, and they are responsible for how they think about themselves. So just wanted to bring that little flavor in as well with
Beautiful.
that.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. I just want to bring in this powerful distinction of wrapping this all together. Finding your purpose, finding your why, finding your direction. It transforms mere existence into a vivid life
I love that.
with passion, with purpose, with
Yeah.
inspiration. So my question to whoever's watching is, what drives you? What is driving you? And what gives your life meaning beyond your daily routine and all of the mundane stuff? Like, where can you find purpose in all those tiny little simple things that keeps you going? And so my prayer for you is to find that purpose, find that meaning that makes you want to spring up out of bed every morning.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just had an inspiration. We could, with these podcasts, even the ones I already done, we could put it in the description, like a little homework assignment that's consistent with the episode, like just an
Oh,
optional exercise that people
oh,
could use
nice.
to further their understanding of anything that we thought was beautiful here. So just a thought.
Well, all right. Well, let's try it out. Why not be it now? So when's now
All
a
right.
good time? In the comment
All right.
section below, if
Great.
you would like to put down what drives you and what
Yes.
motivates you and gives your life meaning, please drop it
Great.
in the comment section below.
Beautiful. There it
So.
is. Beautiful.
Also want to bring in, if you'd like to reach out to us, if you'd like to have more support inside of your journey and this calls to your spirit and you want to learn more about what earth waking is, there's going to be some resources that you can click down at the bottom for you. We've got a visionary leadership program that Kirk McDowell here has created, and it is one of the best leadership programs I ever have had the pleasure of being in for 4 years now. And it's finding your voice from the inside out, and just filling your life up with purpose and being able to distinguish words and language and find out who you are. So that'll be inside of the comments section below as well. So thank you so much for being here, and thank you for joining us today. And I look forward to bringing more of these episodes to you.
Beautiful.
Ciao.